Hey guys, today we step into a world of crumbling fortresses and whispering mountains, where dusty wind cuts through stone alleys and every torchlight flickers with the dread of what's to come. Tonight, we're tracing the almost erased footsteps of a queen whose name barely survived the dust of time. Picture this. You're walking the winding paths of medieval Georgia, not the peach-sweet South, the other one, where mist clings to cedar trees and politics feel sharper than any sword. You're about to meet a woman historians can't agree on, but whose defiance might have changed the course of an empire. Just a heads up, you probably won't survive this without, at minimum, frostbite, betrayal, or food poisoning from questionable mountain stew. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And hey, drop your location and your local time in the comments. Always cool to see where you're listening from. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. You trudge the uneven stone road leading to Kutaisi, boots scuffing against the frostbitten earth. Around you, black pine forests loom, their branches croaking in the wind like old warriors telling secrets. The year is somewhere between 1222 and 1225. Dates are sketchy, but you can feel something rising. You squint upward. A hawk circles the crags above, riding air currents over half-collapsed towers, their flags torn by time and disinterest. The queen on the throne is Rusudan, Tamar's niece, but she's not your focus. Everyone talks about Queen Tamar, that glittering flame of power who led Georgia to a golden age. But that was yesterday's queen. Your interest lies elsewhere, in the mountainous province of Samtskhe, tucked deep into the folds of what you'd now call southwestern Georgia. It's here that another woman, unnamed in most records, is beginning to move pieces behind the scenes. You smell resin from pine torches, hear blacksmith hammers echoing from the lower village. People are tense. Mongol horsemen have been spotted along the borders, slim, silent shadows with bows like curved lightning. They're not invading, not yet, but they're watching. In a drafty council hall, you sit against a cold wall and watch the nobles bicker. They're draped in heavy cloaks stitched with silk threads, Tbilisi imports probably, and too much perfume. Arguments spark over taxes, militias, allegiances. Some say surrender is inevitable. Others want war. A few want both, preferably in that order. The woman you're watching isn't talking. She just listens. Sharp eyes, calm face. Not the queen. Not yet. Just the daughter of Duke Beka, perhaps. Or maybe the widow of a general. Scholars can't decide. She's there, though, sitting like she owns the shadows. A bowl of lamb stew is passed around. You politely decline. Something in it glows faintly green. One noble starts choking on a bone. You try not to smirk. Later, under a dull silver moon, you follow her as she walks the ramparts. Her cloak is too thin for the cold. Her fingers rest on the stone like it's breathing. You hear her whisper something. A plan? A prayer? A curse? You don't ask. A pair of falcons shriek in the distance. You remember the odd bit of trivia. Some Georgian fighters trained with falcons perched on their arms, not for combat, but for balance. If you could aim an arrow while a bird with razors for feet sits on your wrist, you could aim at anything. Across the landscape, fires burn near the mountain trails. They're small, spaced oddly. Signal fires, old bronze mirrors, polished to a glow, catch torchlight and flicker across the peaks. You don't even realize what's happening until someone mutters, "Scouts." They're already here. The Mongols aren't armies yet. They're fragments, advance riders. But they don't need numbers to scare people. Just the idea is enough. You lie down later on a sheepskin mat, staring at the ceiling beams. There's a spider building a web between the corner posts. You wonder if it knows something you don't. The next day, a rider arrives, pale as parchment and bleeding from the ear. They want hostages, he croaks. Boys, and gold, and loyalty. The room falls dead silent. The woman, your queen-to-be, doesn't speak. She just turns and walks out. You follow. She heads not to the temple but to the old fortress above the town. Abandoned, cracked, but not forgotten. Inside, tapestries hang with faded lions and blue stars. She lights a candle, places it beside a chipped icon of St. George, and says nothing. Historians still argue whether Queen Becca's line truly held sovereign power or acted as military governors under Tamar's fading legacy. You don't care. Right now it feels like she's the only one with a spine. You sneak down into the market that night. Everyone's buying salt, dried meat, and thick boots. No one says why. You catch whispers. They'll burn the crops. They'll take the horses. They'll come through the pass before spring. But not everyone's afraid. A blacksmith gives away free spearheads. A baker leaves bundles of bread by strangers' doors. A boy sharpens sticks into arrows while humming a war song 3 centuries old. In the distance, lightning crackles over the hills. Not real weather. You know that now. The Mongols are coming, and the queen-to-be is ready. You just hope you are too. You wake before dawn, your breath clouding in the thin mountain air. The fortress above the valley, your makeshift sanctuary, smells of damp stone, old cedar, and urgency. She's already up. You find her wrapped in a threadbare wool cloak, overlooking the lower roads where 24 riders slip through the fog like ink bleeding across parchment. The Mongols aren't waiting anymore. A messenger arrives on a foaming horse, collapses, and doesn't rise. Tied to his saddle is a scroll sealed in black wax, an invitation disguised as a demand. You break it open. The message is clear: tribute, submission, and 5 noble children as guests. That last word makes your spine itch. She reads it twice, then she burns it in a cooking fire. By mid-morning, you're in a low valley thick with snow and tension. Pine trees bow beneath fresh flurries, muffling the world like a heavy blanket. This is where her resistance begins, not with armies, but with a whisper campaign. You walk with her from hut to hut, gathering outcasts, veterans, monks with strange scars, and one truly unsettling beekeeper who speaks only in riddles. They don't call her queen yet, not out loud, but when she speaks, they nod. That's something. You duck into a cave lit with oil lamps where a map is carved into the wall, crudely, but intentionally. It's the old smuggler's network, predating any Mongol knowledge of the region. She taps her finger along mountain ridges, counting trails you didn't know existed. You spot a route that weaves through frozen rivers, another hidden under an abandoned monastery. These roads, she murmurs, they don't know them, but we do. You spend the night listening to armor being hammered into shape. It's not glamorous. Some of it's made from boiled leather and old curtain rods. A man sharpens a blade against a rock that sings when he grinds it, which is both impressive and mildly terrifying. A young girl hands you a pouch of dried berries. Eat slowly, she warns. More than 5 and you'll talk to the saints. You eat 3, just to be polite. That evening, a fog creeps down the slopes, thick and unnerving. Scouts report Mongol envoys heading for the nearby village of Vardzia. You ride with her through the dark, the horse's hooves muffled by snow and nerves. When you reach the outer fields, she pauses. In the moonlight, the outline of Vardzia's cliff monastery glows faintly, carved right into the rock face. Lanterns flicker like stars pinned into stone. You squint and spot movement on the ledges. Silent monks carry crates through hidden doors. What's in them? Food? Weapons? Relics? No one says. Inside, the scent of beeswax and myrrh fills your lungs. In a vaulted chamber, lit only by sacred candles, she meets with the abbots. They don't bow. They nod. That's more powerful. You catch phrases like hidden relic routes, supply tunnels, and shelter for the wounded. You realize this is bigger than one fortress or one village. It's a network. You return through a different route. This one barely wide enough for goats, lined with prayer carvings you can't read. The silence is so thick you start to hear your own heartbeat echoing back at you. A few days later, you spy Mongol riders on the ridge. Their movements are surgical, fast, coordinated, too quiet. They drop messages tied to arrows. Demands escalate. You find one stuck in a tree with a message in twisted Georgian. Send your sons or we take them. She doesn't blink. She sends no sons. Instead, she begins her own version of psychological warfare. Envoys accidentally disappear en route. Carts of gold are sent with false tribute, only to burst into flames when opened. She spreads rumors of armies gathering in the east, of plague in the valleys, of curses placed on every foreign boot that steps across her borders. Historical records show the Mongols relied on intricate networks of spies and rumor to destabilize their enemies. Now she's using it against them. Remember the polished bronze mirrors from last time? You watch as young boys climb pine trees, using them to reflect sunlight in code across the ridges, flashes of light guiding rebel messengers, and triggering feints in false directions. It's working, for now, but nothing lasts. One afternoon, you find a villager nailed to a tree near the southern trail, a warning left by Mongols. Her face is covered, but her shoes are familiar. Someone from the fort. You swallow bile, then rage. She just looks at the body, murmurs a prayer, and orders a burial. The next day, a funeral bell rings across the hills. You learn it's fake. A distraction. While the Mongols watch for grieving processions, 2 supply caravans slip through an old aqueduct and vanish into the mountains. You ask her how long she can hold out like this. She looks at the sky and says, "Until they forget what fear feels like." At a night meeting deep within a stone cellar, she stares at maps, surrounded by hunters and former monks. A decision is made, not to defend, but to fight. It's bold, maybe suicidal, but you can see it in her eyes. This is her story now. You hear later of a Mongol detachment ambushed near the Black Rock Crossing. Their commander is found gagged and tied upside down to a hawthorn tree, his horse gone, his armor neatly folded beside him. No deaths, just humiliation. A message. Some scholars claim a shadow war of sabotage delayed the Mongol advance by months. Someone whispers as you walk. Others credit only terrain and luck. You shrug. Either way, the mountains are whispering, and the queen has begun to roar. The snow starts to melt, just barely. The first green shoots push up through the frost-bitten earth, defiant as the woman now walking at the head of a ragged caravan, half armor strapped across her shoulder, a blade she can barely lift tied to her back like a stubborn pet. You trail her through the thawing ridges of Samtska, watching how even the gruffest riders fall silent when she speaks. They still don't call her queen out loud, but they follow her like she is one. That's more powerful than a title. You arrive at a ruined palace, half its walls scorched, its roof sagging like a drunk old man's crown. Inside, moss climbs up the marble columns, and pigeons coo in the rafters. This was once a governor's estate, or a royal cousin's, or maybe just a wealthy merchant's hunting lodge. Scholars argue. Doesn't matter. It has walls, a gate, and a cistern with water cold enough to hurt your teeth. She makes camp. By nightfall, fires flicker in the courtyard. Horses are fed. Bread is baked. Someone finds an old banner in a storage room, wipes off the dust, and hangs it upside down by accident. No one cares. It's home now. She stands in the middle of the hall with 30 men and women. Not nobles, not generals, just survivors. A priest reads a line from an old psalm. She doesn't kneel. She doesn't even blink. She just raises her hand and says, "We fight because there's no one else left to do it." And just like that, she becomes queen. No coronation, no throne. Just the cold truth. She's the last one standing. You follow her on patrol. She knows the land like it's part of her body. Every hidden ravine, every cursed tree where lightning struck during the last blood moon. You cross a river where someone built a rope bridge in a hurry. It sways under your feet like a drunk dancer, but she doesn't hesitate. At a mountain pass, she stops, stares. Smoke. You scramble up the rocks and peer over the ledge. Mongol tents. Dozens of them. Campfires glow like angry coals in the dusk. You count banners. Too many. This isn't a scouting party. This is preparation. And yet, she smiles. You ride back in silence. That night, a small team rides out, including a silent hunter with teeth filed into points and a monk who says nothing but sings lullabies to his crossbow bolts. It's the weirdest fellowship you've ever joined. 3 nights later, word arrives. The Mongol envoys have vanished. Their guards, dead. Their horses, released into the woods. Their papers, burned. Someone left behind a small bronze statue of a lion with a hole punched through its eye. No explanation, just symbolism. You're pretty sure that wasn't in the diplomacy manual. Historical fact. Mongol military protocol expected messengers to be treated with respect, or else entire villages would be punished. But here in the highlands, respect is a currency in short supply. In response, a Mongol squad raids a village near the outer forest. They expect no resistance. They find traps, crude but effective, spikes hidden in snowdrifts, fires that collapse pits into tunnels, a donkey painted to look like a nobleman. That part is unclear, but weirdly effective. And then, the forest itself strikes back. Arrows from nowhere, stones rolled downhill, horns blown in different keys to mimic 3 armies. They retreat. Back in the palace, someone brews black tea with mountain herbs. You sip it slowly, savoring the taste of burnt pine and bitter honey. She drinks hers cold. Remember the tale about nobles burying their armor in cursed ground? Turns out that wasn't just superstition. You help dig one up, plates of iron and gold wrapped in moss. It smells like old regrets and damp silk. Still works. Someone asks her if she wants a real crown. She laughs. If it fits over the bruises, sure. You stay in the fortress for weeks. Raiders test the defenses. Scouts come and go. One day, a boy arrives from the east. No shoes, frostbitten hands, clutching a scroll sealed in wax made from goat fat. You break it open. They're coming. Not a raid, not a detachment. An actual Mongol army. You stand at the parapets that night, watching stars blink through the clouds. She stands beside you, eyes distant. We don't have the numbers, you say. We have the land, she replies. And stubbornness. Lots of that. There's a silence. Then she adds, and I might have bribed their mapmaker. Excuse me? Apparently, a month ago, she sent a spy into their camp disguised as a medicine seller. He sold opium to a general's son, slipped into the tent where the maps were kept, and replaced the real topography with slightly skewed versions. The passes look wider than they are. Rivers show up where no rivers exist. Quirky, sure. Also brilliant. Fringe tidbit. There's a rumor, never confirmed, that her forces used fermented goat's milk laced with mushrooms to encourage visions before battle. You're not sure if it worked or just made everyone vomit aggressively. Still, morale is high. The people sing songs again, not about her exactly, but about the woman who never blinked, about the hawk without a nest, about the ghost queen. You walk through the halls at night and see strange things, scribbled prayers, tokens left in stone cracks. Someone's drawn a crude sketch of her with a sword in one hand and a ladle in the other. She finds it, laughs, leaves it on the wall. Some say this was all by accident. Whether the Queen's rise was planned or a desperate accident remains a point of contention in modern Georgian historiography. You don't care. Right now, she stands tall at the edge of a highland cliff, cloak flapping in the wind, eyes fixed on the east, where the sky is beginning to darken not from sunset, but from dust. They're coming, and she's ready. You barely sleep. The wind howls through the cracks in the stone, whispering things that sound like names. The mountain air is thin, and your nerves are thinner. When dawn breaks, it's not with sunlight, but with dust. Thick, yellow-gray clouds kicked up by hooves. Mongol hooves. Hundreds, maybe thousands. You lose count. The queen, no longer just the woman in the shadows, stands on the battlements in fur-lined armor, face streaked with soot from the torch she just lit herself. She's not trying to look majestic. She's just here, present, breathing, bruised, and furious. The fortress shivers. You do too. A lookout bell tolls. It's not the usual rhythm. You turn your head. Archers sprint past you, slinging bows over their shoulders, already lining the top walls. Below, Mongol banners rise like the backs of sea creatures in a frozen tide. Then come the drums. Slow, deliberate, terrifying. The attack doesn't start with arrows or catapults. It starts with silence, the kind of silence that squeezes your lungs. Then, a horn blast, too deep for human lungs, and the earth moves. The first charge hits the outer ridge, a quick feint, testing for weakness. The queen watches without speaking. When the front line of defenders collapses inward, she still doesn't move. Only when the enemy reaches the second gate does she signal, 2 fingers raised, 3 taps to the stone beside her. Suddenly, the inner cliffs erupt. Remember those monks from Vardzia? Turns out they weren't just praying. They were digging. Weeks of hidden labor pay off as entire sections of the cliff wall collapse onto the enemy lines. Rock, dirt, broken logs, and the occasional goat skull. It's chaos. Mongols scatter, some falling into trenches you didn't even know were there. Historical fact: Georgian mountain passes were notoriously treacherous, and multiple records describe fortresses that used landslides and hidden traps to break siege lines. You race through smoke-filled corridors, guiding messengers between towers. At the north wall, you see a teenager lob a clay jar filled with oil into a siege engine. The fire catches fast. The roar is louder than thunder. Down below, a freak weather front rolls in. Fog, then hail. Pebble-sized ice smacks against helmets and lashes unprotected faces. The Mongols hesitate. Just for a moment. That's all she needs. Was that planned? You ask the man next to you. He shrugs. Maybe. There's a monk in the crypt who claims to read clouds. You laugh. You shouldn't, but you do. From the walls, horns blare in uneven notes, a language only the defenders know. You spot shapes moving in the forest behind the ridge. Reinforcements? No. Locals, farmers, some riding mules, some carrying spears whittled from fence posts. They're not trained, but they're angry. And angry people make terrible enemies. The queen descends to the courtyard. She doesn't need to fight, but she picks up a sword anyway. It's clearly too heavy. You offer her a smaller blade. She waves you off and lifts the one she's chosen with a grunt. The image is burned into your memory. A woman half covered in ash, gripping a sword like it's part of her arm, face lit by fire and defiance. You join a squad running toward the south breach. Arrows fly past your head. One thunks into your boot. Not your foot, just your boot. Lucky. You mutter a thank you to every saint you can remember. The Mongols finally push into the outer courtyard. For a moment, it feels like the end. Then the bells toll again. But this time from the mountains behind them. You freeze. They do too. From the cliff trail, a new group descends. Not soldiers, not priests, not villagers. Riders. Proper cavalry. Heavy cloaks. Quiet eyes. No banner. No one knows who they are. Some say they're the exiled sons of noble houses. Some say they're ghosts of fallen warriors. One man whispers, "They died last year." You don't ask follow-up questions. They crash into the Mongol flank like a hammer. The battle twists. You fall, crawl, get dragged to safety by a stranger who leaves without a word. The queen stands firm on the ramparts, cloak torn, hair matted to her cheeks. A spear slams beside her. She doesn't flinch. In the chaos, someone shouts, "They're retreating!" You don't believe it. But it's true. The Mongols begin pulling back, not in full flight, but you can see it. Hesitation, losses, miscalculation. Their maps are wrong. Their spies are missing. Their supplies are cut off. And now, the weather has turned. Historical accounts differ wildly. Georgian chroniclers call it a miracle. Persian sources downplay the event, barely mentioning the skirmish. But the evidence is there. Burned tents, scattered bones, scorched trees marked with Mongol symbols. You limp through the aftermath. The fortress holds. The queen does too, but only just. You find her sitting on a barrel in the stable, soaking her feet in a bucket of melted snow. She looks up and says, "Tell the falconers we're not done." Then she passes out. Fringe tidbit. Some warriors swore by black garlic paste rubbed into their boots to slow the cold. You try it the next morning. It smells like death and regret, but your toes do stay warm. As the fires die down and the wounded are tended, people begin to sing, softly, old songs about endurance and stone and storms that pass. You lean against a wall, bruised, dazed, and alive. You close your eyes. The queen? She sleeps too, but only for an hour, because war is never over. Not yet. The sky clears 2 days after the battle. A silence settles that feels earned. Not peace, not yet, but a pause. A long, aching breath held across the valley. You sit near the scorched gate, boots drying beside you, eyes tracking the faintest traces of smoke as the last enemy campfires fade into memory. She doesn't celebrate. The queen walks the walls alone at first light, inspecting repairs, asking names of the wounded, collecting arrowheads from the mud with the focus of someone still expecting another wave. But none comes. You follow her through the village below. Children peek out from doorways. Farmers, mud-streaked and sore, bow awkwardly, unsure of how to greet a queen who fought beside them with a broken blade and a curse for every blister. She doesn't want reverence. She just asks, "Did you eat?" They nod. In the hall where she claimed her crown without ceremony, a feast is laid, but she doesn't sit. She stands at the edge, drinks water from a cracked clay cup, and listens to the old men argue about crops. It's oddly comforting. Later, you find her tending a wounded horse, her hands smeared with pine pitch and dried blood. No gloves, no crown, just duty. You want to ask her how she did it, how she won, but you realize maybe she didn't. Maybe surviving was the win. Maybe enduring was the point all along. Weeks pass. Snow returns. The fortress is rebuilt slowly, stone by stone. People drift back into the valley, not because it's safe, but because she's still there. The queen becomes more myth than monarch. Songs begin to circulate, first in whispers, then in louder voices. A favorite verse calls her the one who lit mountains on fire. Not literally, but you wouldn't put it past her. But here's the thing. Her name starts disappearing from records. A scribe mentions her only once, calling her Lady of the Southern Edge. Another describes a woman of fierce shadow who led a winter defense, but doesn't give a name. Some claim she was Queen Rusadan in disguise. Others insist she never existed, that the tale is an echo of Queen Tamar's glory distorted by time. One monk, tucked in a footnote of a half-burned chronicle, scribbles, "She had the eyes of a hawk and the voice of cracked bronze. I saw her ride into snow, and the snow flinched. And that's kind of it. No gold seal, no statue, just fragments." Eventually, you see her leave. One morning, she mounts a horse with no ceremony, wrapped in a plain cloak, saddlebag filled with dried meat and one very grumpy cat she found in the kitchens. No one stops her. She rides east, then vanishes. Some say she was forced out. Others claim she stepped away by choice, tired of nobles circling like flies. Modern historians debate whether this forgotten queen was Becca's daughter, a widow of a nobleman, or an entirely fictional war heroine folded into oral legend. You remember her sword, her silence, her laughter after that storm. She was real to you, and now you start to forget too. The fire is low now, its last ember pulsing faint red as you lie back, wrapped in thick wool, the scent of mountain air clinging gently to your skin. The echoes of hooves and horns have long faded. The stone walls, once torn by siege, feel sturdy again. You close your eyes and listen, not for war cries, but for wind through pine needles and distant bells. You picture her one last time, riding between trees, hair loose, no crown in sight, but still holding the world together by sheer will and stubborn hope. A queen with no name, no record, and no need for either. Somewhere in a dusty corner of history, she still stands. And now, so do you. Breathe deep. Let the past slip gently from your shoulders like a worn cloak. The story is over. You are safe. You are home. Sleep well.